I'm your host for Abavade. We have our guest speaker here today, Miss Kuukua Wilson. Miss Kuukua, you have the floor.
Hello, I'm Kuukua Wilson. I'm an illustrator and medical visualizer. I live in the Netherlands currently and I work in biotech.
Very interesting. Now, folks, we have our guest, Miss Kuukua, because she has some strong bases in art. She is one of the most unique. She was able to merge her skills in art into the medical illustrative field, and we would like to pick at her great brains today. So we're glad you're here, and it's going to be a great listen. So, Miss Kuukua, could you tell us a little bit about your early life in Ghana? What was the first thing that sparked your interest in art? Would you say it started during your time in Ghana? Was it in the U.S.? Or...
I wouldn't say I had a great interest in art. I was just genuinely intrigued by creativity and expression. And I think growing up in Ghana, my parents were very adamant about giving me a lot of space to be and exist and explore. And that was quite fertile ground to germinate any idea that came to mind. I was allowed enough space to explore it and kind of bring it to light. And that we can say is the beginning of creativity. And it wasn't specifically art for the sake of art, but just creativity and exploration.
In Ghana, what activities did you participate in that contributed a little more into the art? Was it had you started painting at that time, or were you doing other things in relation?
No, it was more so just exploring in the home. I was always given pieces of paper and pencil or just kind of tools just so I don't get in people's hair. So I was giving tools to just sit and explore, and again, given a lot of space mentally, physically, and also emotionally. My parents would take me everywhere with them, so I explored the world. I explored their world, and I taken a lot of visual information everywhere I go. And through that, I could record what I saw with the papers that they gave me throughout the days.
A bit of a tomboy, maybe, or just more inquisitive?
Definitely not a tomboy. I was just allowed to be inquisitive, and it was never something that was shunned. So it was allowed to grow. And I think my both my parents were very adamant about not limiting any exploration, anything that was intriguing to me. They encouraged it, and they were adamant about never limiting it.
If this would be more related, so what motivated you to move to the United States for um, your studies, and how do you think the transition went?
It wasn't so much a motivation stemming from me or anything. It was a choice made by my parents, and they felt it was the right thing to do at the time. So we moved there to have different accesses, different experiences, and different opportunities to grow. It wasn't any intrinsic motivation from me per se, but we uprooted our lives to move to the US and hope for a better future or a brighter future or more access and opportunity.
Do you think, or you wish you had had a voice in that migrating?
Not particularly. I think at a certain age, you trust your parents to make the best choices for you. And I think my parents are quite level headed people, and I trust them wholly with the decisions that they made because they had a bit bigger view of the world than I. So every child just wants to stay exactly where they are, but they can see further down the horizon, and they made that better choice.
Good, good. How do you think your experiences in the U.S. shaped your artistic path? Were there any particular moments that you think stood out more, merging those the situation of migrating and then now finding the art? Like, where was the apex of it?
Again, I think there's a quote about artists being children that like basically had a chance to grow up, right? So you that skill, that need to explore, that inquisitiveness just kind of stayed with me my whole life, and I always had a place to direct it and express it. Maybe in high school, I found that you could just take art classes and it'll be perfectly fine. So I know I had a different path in mind. I wanted to go into law or something very analytical, but a couple art classes later, I decided maybe this is the better path for me. And it was never discouraged, it was never frowned upon. I remember a lot of conversations around my parents from their friends and other family members like, well, what are you going to do with an art degree? How is it going to feed you? Why are you taking art? And they were always quite steadfast about this, yeah, basically dismissing those conversations and allowing me the space to be. But I think it's if you want something enough, or I didn't even know if I wanted art enough, right? It was always something that I just did on the side of everything else. And stumbling into an art class in high school as an elective is because I had one more open space to take a class, and I just took it and I decided, this might be something, and I just kind of stuck to it. So
Nice. I think I was listening to another podcast, Mel Robinson, and I think she was talking about the creator of this video game. I want to say Pac-Man, and one of his reasons for success in creating those games was he loved to change his environment. He loved to change his surrounding. Do you think? I honestly think that each one of us has a distinctive gift of art. It's just how quick you are to tap into it. Do you think the change in the environment kind of ignited something? Do you think you had it more when you migrated here to the U.S. than when you were back home, your birth country, Ghana?
I'm not sure that I could make a call like that because I was quite young when I left Ghana. I left Ghana at what, 10 years old. So I can't say that I was more or less creative. I was a child that was allowed to be a child and grow in my own time. And more than location or destination, I think that was the fertile ground for the creativity. Is like supportive system that allowed me and really opened doors for me to explore. Without the support, doors just shut. So I think there are a few times where you question your path going through life, but you know that the support is there. And that support is what allows space for creativity because you can't be creative if you're constantly in survival mode. So that you can say it's a gift to be allowed that. But now more so than before, I reach into my childhood for images and ideas and things that I remember and things I've seen now with my adult eyes than I saw when I was a child, and I can kind of correlate my memory. I don't really have such clear memories for whatever reason, but the memories that I have are quite crisp, and I can reach back into it and use it into my creative explorations now.
When you say you don't have much memories, like what, your childhood back in Ghana, or you growing up here in
I
your
think your childhood because I left when I was 10. So, like, whatever memories are kind of freeze framed and they're not moving images. They're just, I remember this one specific color. I remember wearing this one very specific dress in this space. I remember this house with the blue windows. It's never, I remember this story and this thing taking place. I remember like snippets of things. So, but that's just a child memory, right? It's not, you grow up and you gain a lot of memories and things. Your brain just removes things. So,
I know, right? Stored memory, hidden memories. So I learned that you're not just the artist that just sketches, draws. I mean, you also tapped into fashion designing. Tell us a little bit about that stage, that phase. Like, you lean more now to the drawing, the sketching, the painting. What happened to the fashion? Do you think you're going to come back to it, or It's just a dormant thing. It was something of an exploration.
Again, it's all the exploration. I woke up randomly one day. I saw that my mom had a sewing machine, and I decided to pick it up, and it was just something to do. I'm a lover of beauty, so if I have an idea in my mind, I have to see it through. I have to see the idea through the way I want to see it in the manner in which it needs to be. With the sewing machine, my mom has always had a sewing machine for whatever reason, but she's not an active sewer. So I took that machine and I just started making things. And quite often, I think most, let's say you're coming from Ghana, you're used to all your clothes being made all the time. Nothing is bought from a store, everything is made. And that, I would call it ingenuity, is something that I held on to, right? So it's not about looking different, it's about bringing to life an idea of self. So that's what got me, yeah, that was what moved me from 2D art into fashion because I see beautiful images and I want to see it in pictures and then I want to see it in clothes. I took a lot of sculpture and ceramics. I don't have the patience for 3D. So even sewing was very challenging because it requires a lot of patience, which I didn't have, or which I still don't have. But creating that taught me a lot of things, taught me structure. And you cannot have a good garment until you learn a thing or two about putting together a good garment. And that kind of transpired into, yeah, a lot of my technical work that I do now. Yeah, it was the basis to that. So more than just beauty, yeah, the beautiful product, people see the beautiful product on the runway and that's fun. But for me, it was just creating structure and like learning to create new shapes and bring in different colors and textures and techniques and just learning and exploring and creating. So yeah, that's what that was. It was short lived because at some point you cannot be like a one band woman, right? It gets tiring, and it's a very expensive craft, so it wasn't
Yeah.
sustainable as a student. And my parents are working around the clock. Like art is where the budget ends. It doesn't extend into fashion. Like it's okay. Art is enough. So it was good while it lasted. Personally, I don't think I could have continued it anyway because the path that I chose it's still in art, but it was just as demanding.
It sounds as more fulfilling to you, letting go of the fashion aspect and then tying more into the.
No, I didn't so much let it go as instead of extending it outside to clients or models, I brought it back inside. So I pulled it out from inside and I brought it back inside to myself. And then it's a part of my signature. When people see me, they know before I turn around, they know it's me because I'm wearing this shape or this color.
And it just let it be that
It's
art.
recognizable as like my signature when I.
So currently you're in biotech,
Mhm.
as you said. So what would you say inspired you to pursue a master's degree in Netherlands? I hear you recently, attained that
Well,
master's.
definitely not recent, but to be very plain, it was the cheapest option. I wanted to take, everybody wants to go to prestigious university, but prestige comes with a hefty bill.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in lieu of prestige, I opted for a program that would align somewhat with what I was already doing and maybe help me push it further. And it would put me in a place I'd never been, and no one goes out of their way to look for a challenge, but I had never been away from my parents or my family, and I was strongly encouraged to come here and explore further. It was after quite a traumatic year that I made that decision to go. I was in this discussion with my mom and my dad at the time. I wanted to do this program because I was like, well, I have an art degree and I don't know what to do because after art, I don't want.
It's like a
It
bottleneck.
wasn't so much bottleneck. I have an art degree, and I want my work to mean something somewhere. I want my work to have meaning. Obviously, yeah, art has meaning, but I wanted my work to affect a very particular change that I hadn't found the direction for. But I was talking with my mom, and I was back in Ghana at this time, and I was talking with my mom and my dad at the time, and my dad was very ill. We found out he was terminally ill, and I was telling them that, oh, I want to take an art program. There's one in Iceland. I've never been to Iceland. My dad was like, no, what are you going to do there? There's nothing there. I love the idea of Iceland, but he talked me off from there. And I told him about the other schools in the US, they're expensive, and the one in the Netherlands. I've never been to the Netherlands. And this was when he was telling me he took out, well, he didn't take out, I had to grab his passports. He was telling me like all the times that he traveled to Europe and all the places that he had gone. And that, without knowing, that made the decision for me as far as heading to the Netherlands or mainland Europe somewhere. I had the conversation with my mom and dad. We agreed, and I think right before putting my application in, my dad passed, and that kind of halted everything for quite some time. And of course, in grief, you kind of stop living for a little bit. And thankfully, my mom, as the ever loving support that she is, she pushed my hand to submit the application. And after I did, I got waitlisted. And I was just like, well, it is what it is. It's a sign. And I cried, I cried, I called my siblings, I cried. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I think I was talking with my brother, and he was like, well, you could just take a year off and maybe apply next year and see, because at the end of the day, you still need to pay and this and that and that and that. And I was so adamant about going. And the next day, I got another email back that, oh, you've been removed off the wait list, you've been accepted. So then I go back to my brother and I'm like, okay, at first we're talking about taking a year off, but now I'm here. How do I pay for this? And my mom was just like, you have to go. I'm like, well, if I go, then what do you do? So, but again, the importance of the a very rich soil for growth is the support system that you have. And with their love and support, my sister, my brother, my mom, we just made the decision to go. It was a lot of crying. I remember like my sister-in-law and my nieces, my nephew, everybody's crying. We're going to lunch and dinner, they're crying. My sister gave birth to her new boy, and we're going to lunch. My sister-in-law is helping me pack. For the first time in my life, I'm like packing myself a big suitcase. I've never done that. Going somewhere that I've never been, speaking a language I've never spoken. But in the end, the fear and anxiety, it was the right decision made. Normally, I don't like to make decisions when I'm having big emotional upheaval, like your father passing. But I think he, myself, and my mom had made that decision, and it only made sense to follow through with it. Yeah. If for nothing else,
So
it's to
not
honor my father. Yeah.
so not only did you do a one-time migration or a two-time, this is a third time. It's in your bones. Migrated from Ghana to the U.S., from the U.S.
I
Netherlands.
mean, I call myself a professional immigrant, so I think it's just, you just learn to be. It's scary at first because I'm somebody's last born child, and I'm just roaming the earth by myself. And I think it was harder for my mom because she's grieving, and then she has to watch her daughter travel. And I think she came about a month later. Actually, no, it wasn't even a month. She came about 2 or 3 weeks later to see what's going on. So, like, obviously, she's like, yeah, okay, it's fine, go. I already booked my ticket. I was like, oh, okay. Well, so, but, I mean, it was a necessary decision because I want my work to mean something. I want my work to have value. I want my work to add something to the conversation. I always say I'm concerned about the human experience and what I can add to it. So that's the basis of my work. And I try not to, well, every artist tries not, I try, my goal is never to put myself in the center of my work, but you as an artist are the center of your own universe. So it's unavoidable.
So that field actually is a very, very unique field. And as you say, you're in biotech right now. So do you think you became interested in it through the cause, unfortunately, with your dad in the passing stage? Or what do you think led to you in choosing that career path?
At the time, I wanted answers. I wanted to understand medicine. I wanted to understand the human body. I wanted to understand, yeah, not to be morbid, I wanted to understand his death and what he experienced and how we couldn't find educational information about what he was going through at the time. So you turn your grief into something, and I needed answers, and I needed to fill that void in lieu of crying. I created works that gave me some semblance of closure for that stage in life. Yeah.
So would you say you being in that field and you wanting to finance, because basically that's what art is, and art migration, that's what it needs to solve a problem, solve a solution, maybe a solution to a problem, sorry. So would you say that has been like a rewarding aspect of you being a medical illustrator? Because I do believe there are some other challenges too that have come across. Like, have you found, has there been a solution to you investigating what happened with dad, and and other challenges came along with it on your path?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has, because in search for answers for my own grief, I was able to take on projects that probably helped somebody else. My closure led to some openings that aided other people. So that I'm eternally grateful for. But yeah, there's no answer to death. It's just a part of life, right? So finding that I could turn my grief into some kind of a tool for education, a tool for answering pathological research was great. It's helped a lot, and I've become, again, like I said, I was looking for answers while he was sick and dying, and that helped kind of light a fire under me about finding representational artworks in the field, which that wasn't such a available there wasn't so much available imagery at the time. So that sent me on that path already. So that that trying to find that closure helped open those doors. So
So culturally, more culture, cross culture perspective wise, you haven't lived in Ghana, spent time in the U.S., and now you basically full time in the Netherlands. How would you say all these culture experiences have they blended well in making you a better artist, better person, better migrant? Do you think all of that has become your identity?
yeah, I think you gather things to your life and you attach them to you and they become a part of you and they become who you are. Being This is actually something I was talking to my best friend about over this weekend, about how a lot of times you go through life and you realize that through your experiences, through the routes that your life have taken, your world seems to become bigger than a lot of people that you meet, a lot of people that you experience, and that differentiates you a lot from your surroundings sometimes, where people expect you to not know something, but because you've lived on three continents, you have a very keen point of view to most things. And you can apply a different eye, you can apply a different mind, you can apply a different sense of awareness that maybe somebody that has lived in only one corner of the world has always will have. So I would say, yeah, it's been definitely beneficial. Does it go into my work? Absolutely. In my personal explorative works, when I'm painting things about allegorical paintings, I'm always trying to reach into my childhood in Ghana and then explore my early adulthood in the US and then the woman that I am now. So I'm always trying to reach into those versions of Kuukua. Like, who is she? Where was she? What did she do? How is she? Who is she now? And try to make work from that.
So, would you say there are differences on how art is viewed in these three countries that you've lived?
I mean, art is art is art. I don't really understand your question. What do you mean how it's viewed? I think art is it's a language. Yeah, and every language will be understood differently by different eyes and ears, right? So, I think right now we live in a very social media. Everything's readily available in social media, so there aren't any strict lines as far as differentiations of cultures and things that people understand. Obviously, there's always ignorance, so that it cannot be avoided. But a lot of the things that we do, or a lot of the things that we see, we reach across the world, and we have clear understanding of what's going on in Ghana, what's going on in here. But I wouldn't know how to answer that question, how art is viewed in US versus Ghana, because there's some really amazing there are amazing Ghanaian artists right now that are moving the dial on the conversation of creativity, and they're not just making art for the sake of art. They're making social commentary arts that are really moving the political conversations around, or they're making art that is addressing major issues that African countries face, like pollution and plastic waste and all these things. So I would say, in, from my very specific awareness of art, at least, well, I should say the art that I access, the Ghanaian artists are very socially conscious in their work, and it's an honor to witness that. And a lot of the American artists that I witness, likewise, they do great social artworks, or the works that I'm interested right now, maybe from I would say from Americans, like art or quick illustrations that are either maybe not political, but they take in their environments and they recreate their environments, and the editorials that tell snippets of stories of things that are happening in the here and now. So yeah.
So, do you think this journey has taught you? Oh, actually, what has this journey taught you about the importance of art in the healthcare, education across different cultures?
That's a very good question, because one of the main things for me right now is on the topic of representation. I had the pleasure of teaching two or three, is it two? Two courses at the University of Baylor University in Texas, School of Medicine, on the representation in medical illustration, but specifically medical visuals that serve underserved communities. And there's a big whole of representative works, basically works that show topical pathology on different skin tones. That's been a big proponent of my work. I could say maybe from the beginning, just from looking for questions, answers for my dad's passing to now. It's a big aspect of the work that I do. What does this look like on my skin and then the skin of the people that look like me, so that nobody has to suffer the path that my dad suffered? How can we point these things out if there is a topical aspect to it that can be immediately recognized, so nobody has to suffer, and it can be caught immediately? So these are the things that I like to address in the it's the crux of the work that I do, making sure that everyone is served appropriately as part of my work. So I try to create works that cover, yeah, different cultures and different races. And of course, always different cultures and different races take into account mostly all groups of people.
Kuukua wanted to know, how has this international journey impacted your view of home and identity? Home as in where you were born in Ghana.
I mean, you carry home with you everywhere. Specifically for me, I had a positive journey growing up. So you always long for home the further you're away. So I love my country. Anytime I go back, I'm the happiest there, even if it's for a short while. But as far as how it affects your identity, it's how you're recognized. It's in your skin, it's in your hair, it's in your eyes, it's everywhere. It goes everywhere with you. So how does it impact my view on anything? I mean, traveling or living in so many different places, it forces you to always take a step back and to understand things thoroughly. You don't always go with the first thought that pops in your mind. You just take a little bit of time to appreciate and understand things before you jump in. Because I always have to have three awarenesses about everything. I look at things as Kuukua the Ghanaian, Kuukua the American, Kuukua living in Europe, and that may delay maybe a lot of my social decision making, but at the end of the day, I make the best choice based off my lived experiences every time. I don't just jump into things. I take my time to do a lot to process things before I jump in. That I would say is the biggest. I would say it's a benefit. It's the biggest aspect to me.
Do you have issues with your accent? Do you have people questioning? Do they when they see you come, do they know that this is Kuukwa the Ghanaian, Kuukwa the American? Like,
No one knows anything.
do people pick up? Not in Netherlands.
No, I think most people when they hear me speak, they think I'm British. Some guy thought I was French. I was like, I've never said a French word a day in my life. But no, I think a lot of people, most people don't really guess until you tell them. Because I think I don't I to me I sound like me, so I don't know if I have an accent or don't. But I just sound like myself. My ears are not tuned to hear anything different from my voice other than just my voice. So what people assume when they first meet me, I can't tell you until they tell me. But I know a lot of random people I meet, they think I'm British or something like that. So yeah.
Better run with it. So, what advice would you give to other migrants or international students who are following a similar path as you in that career?
In this career, I think one of the things to really be aware of, just in any creative field, creativity requires a lot of time by yourself. And for that, on it it's a field that is very isolating because you have to spend a lot of time thinking about your ideas and bringing your ideas to life. So it is very isolating. That's just something to be aware of and be prepared for. And you also just require time anyway to work. But other than that, though it is isolating, it helps you identify interesting things through your journey. Because one of the requirements of creativity is to pull the world outside in and process that and create something from it. So you cannot sit in isolation and get creative ideas. After the isolation period, you have to go out and experience the world and pull it in. So be prepared for both sides of that. And on the flip side of being an immigrant, it's a lot of work. That too is isolating. And it's just something you need to be prepared for. You have to have, like I said, you have to have an awareness that it's not your home country, it's not your language. These are all things that you have to learn on the fly. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be open to excessive amounts of change to survive. But other than that, if we're willing to work hard and push yourself, then you can build something great out of it. I think if you choose not to push yourself, either the environment will push you or it'll spit you back out. And that's with any new journey that you take, right? If you're not pushing and trying to aim higher, then you're probably regressing.
You make it a conscious choice when you go into that moment of isolation where you do all your creativity, your birth, I mean, your happiness moment. You make it a conscious choice. Is it during your breaks to come back into the world to explore, or is it when you finish with a project or a task that you come back into the world to recoup and bring it all back in?
That's if, let's say, the technical work that I do, medical illustration, that you have to stick it all the way through because that requires technique and analytical thinking and research. It's time consuming, so that maybe taking a break becomes a distraction because you're doing very technical work, and the less break or fun you take, the better your work can be. But for creative works, creative illustrations, paintings, that requires taking a break and being in the world so you can create something. So it's having two minds. So when I'm doing medical illustration, I don't make creative art. And when I'm doing creative art, I don't look at medical illustrations. They cannot exist together in the same mind frame. Let's say if today I'm doing X, then Y has to move off to the side and then so on and so forth. Yeah. To me, I don't know how anybody else
Well,
does, but yeah.
that's your bad. One of my interviews I had, that comment that someone they said is that nobody's coming for you.
Mm.
Is that how it feels like as an immigrant? Like it's like a survival of the fittest.
I mean, yes, because there's no safety net. It's just you and your choices and the decisions that you make, and that's it. You just have you and yourself. I mean, quite often I call my mom crying that I'm tired of thinking for myself, but I don't want anyone to think for me. So it's always two things. It's just you want a specific life. You have a vision in your mind. This is the life I want. This is how I want it to look. This is how I want it to feel. This is how I want it to smell. And you have to deal with the consequences of that want. And that will require some temporary isolation, temporary sadness, of fun here and there. but you have to make hard choices for yourself, by yourself all the time, because I don't really believe in the no one is coming for you per se, because if you have a support system, you will always have somebody that will be willing to put down everything for you. But nobody will do, nobody will be thinking for you, nobody will process for you, because no matter what, your support system, they individually have their own lives and goals and dreams that they themselves are reaching and aiming for. So you have to wear a lot of hats for yourself, right? And in an effort to exist in the world that you're building, you have to be so many people at once. I I think a lot of times I'm just a go, 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 stop, think, process, go, 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 go. And I struggle a lot with living in the moment because you're always trying to figure out what's behind the next door, what's around the corner, what's coming there. But it's not just because, it's for a reason, it's for a purpose. I envision my life this way and I want it to be this way. For it to arrive at that destination, I have to make choices and sacrifices that are not easy or fun, but it's a means to an end, and you just accept that and you just keep moving. But I think that's with any immigrant. I think I can ask my parents, well, my mom, making that choice to uproot your whole life with your kids and come to a different country. It's very isolating. No matter the support that you have, it's just you and your kids and trying to figure it out. And it's isolating. You cry, you feel alone, you feel lost, you feel confused. She and my dad at the time had a vision and they had to bring that vision to life. So I see myself on a similar journey where I want X, Y, and Z in my life. I don't usually put time frames on things, but I want this in my life. I want that in my life. I hope for A, B, and C. And to do that, I know that will require me to, maybe for this week, I need to be by myself. I need to think about this. I need to do that. And you just kind of accept it because it's a choice you're making. Everything is a choice. It's not by force to be a foreigner. You made this choice because you wanted different opportunities, you wanted different choices. So you made the choice, you deal with the benefits and the stress of it. It just is what it is. I think I'm more of a it is what it is type person. I know my mom was always like, you just need to go with the flow. And I'm like, where's the flow going? How do you know what the direction is? What is the temperature of the water? I need to know all these things so before I can go with the flow. But as I grow and as so many things in life happen, you realize that you don't really have control and you can only go so far with your choices and the rest you have to let happen. So yes, you have the control of choice. And then after that, you are at the mercy of your environment, your surrounding, and the reverberating effects of your choices.
So what would you say was the most meaningful project that you've worked on ever since then, and how does that resonate with you?
I mean, the one that I've had the most enjoyment was the teaching at the university. I think that opened my mind, opened my skills to something that I wasn't even sure was within my wheelhouse. Because when the assignment came, I really told the director, I'm not a teacher. Still to this day, I'm a student. So how can I teach when I'm still a student? And she was quite adamant about, no, I think you're the right person. We took some time to find you, so we're going to stick with you, and you just have to teach. You just have to get over it. And that I took that to my mentor, and he had a similar point of view. He's like, yeah, I don't know why you think you can't do it. I'm like, well, I'm not a teacher. I'm still a student at my big age. But he was just like, we can try to structure something. We'll pick through what you know, and we can create something that will bring you to the point of knowing and not just feeling, knowing that you can do this project. And I think it really, again, like it really helps to have people in your corner that can mentor and guide you. And even the project director was herself a mentor because, again, this is something completely new for me. And I was like, I asked him many times, can you take off your hat as the director of this program and maybe put on the hat of a collaborator and tell me what you would do in my position? And that helps a lot because then you can have an honest conversation. And like, I was asking her, well, what do I charge? I've never taught. She's like, if I were you, I would do X, Y, and Z. If I were you, I would put myself in the role of a consultant and I'll do this and that and that. And it helped a lot. So now there's obviously with every new achievement, there's more confidence in the next step that you have to take because now I have all these new skills and I can apply it going forward and I can step in confidence because I did it and I had support to do it. I have confirmation that I can do it because I was asked to come back. So obviously I did something right and that's usually what you need. Yeah.
You have a mentor, fortunately, from the U.S. and mentor in the Netherlands, or are they
When
both
going through
from
this
the U.S.?
project, yeah, I think they both mentored me into building a curriculum for the program and how to teach it and the tools needed to teach. So yeah,
How to set your
yeah,
pricing.
and how to yeah, because you're not just charging an individual client, you're charging an entity, a university. So you're not just consulting with one client, you're consulting with a pretty large entity. So you have to be fair to yourself and also be able to do what you're doing comfortably and well and be compensated appropriately. Yeah.
So, for future aspirations, what are your goals as a medical illustrator? Are there any upcoming projects you're excited about?
My goals, I've taken a big step back this year. I've had quite a traumatic year, so I'm not really creating much this year. I've had to take a step back, but my goal is always the same. I'm interested in the future of medicine. So I want to be where I can be of I can be of value to communicating the future of medicine. I'm interested in medical devices that are addressing healthcare issues. I'm very interested in global medicine. So I want to find a way to put those paths together and have projects in those fields. I think I will save my goals for the new fiscal year and maybe take the rest of this year just to recover from all the trauma of this year and then hopefully start the year afresh with something new. But I hope I can bring those goals to life because those are topics that I've always been interested in, and I hope maybe with the step back, I can have a refreshed mind and see what's around the corner.
So, you would say those goals are most likely going to be like a bridge of your skills, the medical illustration, and your passion for art and culture, right? It'll be much
All
so.
my goals are always a bridge. My goals cannot exist without creativity. So I don't have any goals that are void of creativity. It's a part of who I am. I can't imagine not creating. I know I say I'm not creating now, and it's a bit unbelievable to even me myself. But I think with everything that has happened in my life this year, it's quite necessary to take a step back. But when I look into the future, all my goals require creativity. They all require color, they all require life. They have to exist together at all times.
So when you come back next year, you know the trauma doesn't just go away easily. It's time, it's a process. It comes back sometimes in bits and pieces. So we're wishing you a speedy recovery, success on that. We can't wait to see you back next year full in action. Do we expect you to be evolving into some new fields in your careers? Is the year going for like something new? Or is it just building more? I know your curiosity for art, finding solutions, finding cure questions about dad and the trauma of your brother, but it's like something more added to it or something different.
It's hard to tell. I don't know. I can only hope that all of that is put together and I can find things that address all corners of the creativity and still with the very strong need to provide and find answers for within the medical pathology world. So my mission statement is always the same. So I guess what I hope to change, what I hope to gain is just the manner in which to do it. Different fields to look in. Like I said, I want to really focus on devices and global medicine and global health. So we'll see.
What an average Ghanaian right now that hasn't had opportunity to migrate, like you and I, that has not tapped into their artistic abilities. But they one day wake up and like, hey, I love listening to her. I'm inspired by her. They don't currently see an opportunity of them having the funds or the ability to even come to the US or more so to the Netherlands, but they aspire to be a medical illustrator. What will be your message to them? It's a determined person, hardworking person, all that is doing great. They've got a great institution in Ghana. The system is tight, but they aspire to be like Miss Kuukua Wilson.
I think one of the first steps in resources, try to get to a good teaching university, medical hospital or medical teaching university, or better yet, if you have a specific field that you're into, let's say you're interested in surgery or oncology, find a doctor that is actively working in the field and see if you can shadow her or him and see if they will allow you the space to create work based off the either their research or maybe if you're lucky their patients, and try to build a strong portfolio. At the end of the day, no matter where you are in the world, your portfolio goes ahead of you every time. Your work speak before you have a chance to enter any room. So if you can be somewhere where you can create basis of some strong base of work that show where you want to go in your career, or it can be like the first steps of where you want to go in your career, that's usually the best step. I know in Ghana there are a few good art programs. Off the top of my head, I can't think of them right now, but put in those two, taking art programs, learning how to visualize, getting in contact with a teaching hospital or specifically maybe a doctor or researcher and working with them. That's the best way to have that credibility and build that portfolio that's required. And your portfolio always, like I said, your portfolio always travels before you do. So if you can create the work and put that out, then those are the first required steps to putting yourself out there and becoming the medical illustrator that you want to be.
You could basically make it wherever you are, not necessarily just gone any part of the world. Take that, let the portfolio go ahead of you, and let migration to travel be a benefit, that's added to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the conversation of credibility, if you have a strong portfolio, then you can use that portfolio to get the degree and the sponsorship and come and finalize and come to university and get your degree. Then you have the credibility to apply for big roles and get big clients, because then you satisfy the two necessary things required really to exist in this field: have a strong portfolio and have clients, previous clients that trust you and your work.
Interesting. It's Kuukua. So you're a biotech career lady during the week, and then you have your own side business. It's illustrations, and people could find you on your Instagram
Yep.
page,
At Kuukua,
which is
at Kuukua_illustrations.
they could just on that or just DM
No,
you, email
just
you.
send me a message on my website, or yeah, you can DM me on my Instagram. So it's just www.kuukuawilson.com, or yes, you can send me an email. I mean, a DM or a message, rather, I should say, on my Instagram.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. We know you're a busy lady. Again, my name is Mamia Batatwa. I'm your host for Above Our Day. We got to meet Miss Kuukua Wilson, a migrant from Ghana to the U.S. and to the Netherlands that is breaking boundaries and barriers. And I'm wishing you a speedy recovery through and out of the traumas. We cannot wait to see you next year to see all the new things you have coming up. And again, I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us over here. Can't wait to see you next time.
Thank you for having me.